Hey YouTube, it's Jackie and welcome to another process video. Today I'm going to do two different journal pages. I've got two one-page entries that I want to make into my June journal, and I thought you guys might like to join me for it. This is an above ground art supplies sketchbook that I'm using, and it's about 6 by 8 in size. The first page I just start out by doing a rough sketch with my Micron 1 pen. I like the Micron 1 because it's thin, Sakura branded, and it is water fast, so now that I'm going to use my watercolors on it, it'll stay put. This page is about meeting my husband downtown for lunch on a Friday afternoon, and the sky was just such a beautiful blue. I wanted to capture that color. So I used, these watercolors are my Cotman colors, and I have another video on my channel if you want to see how I set up this palette, and I'm using the color Cerulean Blue, and I just thought a frame would be a nice way to incorporate that color so that I just remember that it was just a beautiful day. And then next I'm going to do some stenciling, and so I just pulled out my book of stencils. I actually have two of these books. I have quite a lot of stencils at this point. So I knew which one I wanted, so it's just a matter of finding it. This one is by Crafter's Workshop, and it's actually a layered stencil, and I would love to get some more of these. So if you guys can give me a lead on some layered stencils, please leave it in the comments below. I'd love to find some more. So you start by doing the background, and I'm just going to use a distress ink in the color Hickory Smoke. And when I distress ink on stencils, I use a dabbing motion. I find if you use a rubbing motion, you risk damaging the stencil. Dabbing takes a little longer, but it saves your stencil. I just do like a slight dab and twist it just a little bit, and that's how I'm working there. And I just love using distress ink with stencils because all you have to do to get them clean is rinse them under water, which is so much easier than using acrylic paint, which dries and sticks to them. So then I just lay the second part of the stencil on top, and I grab my Micron 3, which is just a little bit thicker of a nib, and I start filling in the details. And this is was a little bit time-consuming of a process, so I've sped it way up for you. But the idea is that it's going to look like a sketched drawing when I'm done, even though all I did was trace. And I love that. I love these kind of little cheats that make it look like I worked harder than I did. So there you go. You can see, I guess that was kind of quick, how it's coming together. A funny thing about this stencil, though, is that the two layers, they don't line up for the two buildings on the right. So if I had been smart, I would have done all the buildings except the last two and then readjusted the stencil, but instead I just kind of went with it. So I'm going to have to adjust it when I'm done, but it's my journal. It's low pressure. Like, I wasn't careful when I put the watercolor down in terms of staying in the lines or going outside of the lines. I'm not really being that careful with the stencil. I'm just here to play, and at the end of the day, I find your page looks nice whatever, no matter what you do, right? So I just kind of go with it. And while I'm just going through that, I'll just say a big thanks to everyone who's joined my Facebook group. We're up to 140 members. How awesome is that? The link's below if you want to join. Everyone's sharing pages, and it's just turning into this lovely community, and I love it. So there you can see where I've kind of messed up the last two buildings by not offsetting the stencil. So I just draw another line in, and that kind of fixes it. And then the little one's a little more tricky. It doesn't look right when I add an extra line, so I just add a little more distress ink to it. And it's not perfect, but it's all good. Looks good enough. So there's my little cityscape. And then I'm kind of thinking, like, what's my color palette going to be here? So I'm not sure where I want to go with that. So I just dump out all my Ecoline brush markers and see if any of them are resonating with me. They didn't, so I just went through my die cuts and I picked out some of those. I did find a couple of things I wanted to use. There's like half a border sticker in there and an old Amy Tangerine die cut that I think are going to work. So I grabbed those. Those are actually all the die cuts I own. I'm such a minimalist when it comes to die cuts, but yet I have markers for days. I have more markers than anyone needs. I'm a big fan of the Ecoline brush markers. I think they're probably my favorite brush marker out there. They're watercolor brush markers. The colors are brilliant and they're stunning. And I love the color selection, and they're so juicy, and it kind of leaves a subtle ombre when you do brush lettering with them that I think is really cool. Yeah, they're just my favorite markers. So I just used my tape runner to stick down my embellishments, and the other one was the sticker, so that was easy. And just fit it in the corner in the way that kind of gets it as close to the corner as they can. And I'm still not settled on the markers, so then I just pull out, this is my little swatch book that I use. I just keep it near my journaling stuff, and it helps me pick things out. And I hemmed and hawed over this for way longer than I should have. I'm thinking magenta, maybe blue, maybe green, maybe. In the end, I settle on the green. and do my lettering. So my title is Downtown Lunch Date, and I start at the bottom and I work my way up because that'll get it positioned properly. I'm just doing a thick line on the left side of each letter and thin lines everywhere else, except for the T, of course, because it doesn't have like a left vertical piece. I kind of ran out of room there, so the E goes behind the building a little bit. And you'll notice as a lefty, when I'm doing skinny lines, I tend to pull from right to left instead of pushing from left to right, and I find that gives me a better line. So that's a lefty tip for you, lefty lettering tip. And then I just grab a Pitt pen because it's got a smaller brush tip to do the word downtown, and I picked this pale pink that I thought kind of matched the Amy Tangerine die cut, and all the pinks are different shades, but it ends up working out, so I think that's good. And I just do like some brush script for the word downtown, keeping it simple. And there's my little title, and I love this page. I think it's adorable. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, I just put a date stamp on it and I leave it there. That's a Heidi Swap date stamp. I got it at Michael's about a year ago. I don't think they have it anymore. And stamp it down. And that was an easy page. So then I move on to the second one. The next one is called Running in the Rain, and it's talking about how my sister has just started running, and we went out and it started pouring rain, and I didn't know how she was going to do with it because running is really hard when you first start. And she was such a trooper. She kept going, and I'm so proud of her. So I definitely had to record that in my journal. So I find this jelly print that I did a couple months ago, and I'm loving the clouds on it. The dark blue ones really make me think of rain clouds. So I'm kind of figuring this out as I go. Like, I don't come into this with a plan, but I think for sure I want to use those rain clouds. It's a long title, so usually I stamp long titles or I brush script them because it just takes too many alpha stickers. So I grab my Memento Paris Dusk because I like the way that color matches the dark blue in the clouds, and then I've got these Recollections letter, they're like a cursive writing stamp, so I use those, and I'll speed through this because it's pretty boring to watch me stamp. The only thing I thought I'd mention that, again, as a lefty, I find it a lot easier to stamp from right to left, that I get better precision. Not so much with the acrylic stamps. Acrylic I can do either direction, but especially the ones on the little sticks like you'll see me use here in a second, I find I get way better precision going right to left. After I did the word running, it looked a little slanty, so I decided to embrace that slant, and I really slanted the word rain, and it just gives it a little casual look, and I like it. Let's put those away, and then I grab my little peg stamps from Michael's to do my little, the little words. So I put in the, and you can see I'm going right to left on those too. I kind of messed up where I put the I, but whatever. And at this point, I still don't really know what I'm doing. I know that now this photo doesn't fit, so I just trim it down a little bit so that it'll have, it'll fit in beside the stamping. And then there was just a lot of I know my journaling is going to go here, so I just traced that out with a pencil, just lightly. And then I just, it was such a green, lush night, so I decided I wanted to capture that color. And so I'm using, I think it's Hooker's Green, or it's Hooker's Green Dark, and just making a little puddle. And then I start doing my watercolor wash on the background pretty much everywhere except where the title is and where the journaling goes. But before I did this, I thought I'd use acrylic paints. I went back and forth a lot before I finally figured out what I was doing on this page. It starts off as this beautiful even wash, and then I think, oh, I want to do that little smudgy outline around the title. But of course, this is sketch paper, so I work pretty dry on it. It can't handle that much water, so the water can't spread. I don't get the effect that I want, and then meanwhile, the bottom dries, and so now I'm getting uneven colors. But when stuff like that happens, I don't really stress it. I find they still turn out, and they look fine, so I just go with it. And now I've got some dark spots, and you can see I'm kind of roughly painting around where I'd marked the journaling area. And then I just go back and I mess around with that edge again because it's still bugging me. And now the top's looking too light, so I just add a little bit more pigment at the top and kind of even out that wash. And then what you don't see is then I take it to the heat gun and dry it off because the next step is also wet, so it's just going to go continuously here though. So the next thing that I need to do is attach my jelly print on top of the on top of the titles. So I just grabbed some wax paper so that I don't get glue everywhere, and I use my Tri-Art brand, Tri-Art's gel medium to stick it down. I love Tri-Art's brand. They are cheaper than Liquitex and Golden for most things, and I have yet to try a product from them that I didn't love, so I do highly recommend that brand. I buy mine at DeSerres. My tape runners come from Dollarama, and I'm just taping the backs of my photos. I use a lot of adhesive on my photos. I just don't want them to move, so I usually outline the whole thing and then put some tape in the middle too. And at this point I'm committed. The photos are down. This is the page. The title's down. It's happening. So at this point it's dried enough. I can cut the edges of the paper. I like the matte medium's mostly dry, so I cut off the scraps. I actually save those scraps because I'm doing iCAD right now, index card a day, and I can use those little scraps in my on my cards. And then I want some embellishments, so I grabbed some washi tape. This one is a glitter tape from Amy Tangerine, and I thought it kind of matched the magenta that's in the jelly print. So I just tear some of that off and stick it down, and it kind of brings the colors together. And now I feel like I've got a full-on color scheme going. And then I've got these tiny word stickers, and I actually made these myself. I think it's probably been a year ago now, and I've just been slowly using them, but I thought there was like a "We Did It" sticker on there, but I couldn't find it, so I ended up using "This Is Happening," which is how we felt when the rain started. We were like, do we keep running? Do we stop running? No, this is happening. So we kept going, and then I also used this one that said "You Are Awesome," and I just like to trim around the outside of word stickers as a general rule. I don't like to have a lot of white space, and I thought my sister did an awesome job, so I used the "You Are Awesome" sticker. And then I just wanted like a little something to kind of cluster with those two embellishments, so I pulled out my Sticker Art Seasons book. I've got another video on my channel if you want to see a flip through of this book. It's a really cheap sticker book that you can get in Canada at Chapters Indigo, and I'm so in love with all the flowers in it. I've been using them constantly. So I just put down a couple of little blue flowers that I thought matched the jelly print. Got my Ecoline markers out anyway, so I figured I'd use those to do my raindrops. Little trick for you is that if you set a brush tip marker on its side, it will make, and you just press it down gently, it'll make a drop shape. And the bigger the nib, the better the drop you'll get. My matte medium wasn't totally dry though, so they a few of them smeared. Some of them turned out great, but where it was wet, they smeared. You won't see it in the video, but basically when they were dry, I went back and I traced over them with a white gel pen. So you'll see that in the photo at the end. So yeah, you see some are good, some are wonky. But I'll go back and I'll fix those, and you'll see that in the photo. And I just add another flower sticker because it's better to have an odd number of embellishments. It's more visual appealing. So I just add one more on. Go back to my Micron 1, and I just trace out my journal spot and my photos. Excuse me. And you'll notice I hold the pen at the top of the pen instead of at the base. I do that when I'm outlining things because it gives me a little less control, and that gives me a sketchier result, which is what I'm looking for. And yeah, with that, my pages are done. All I have to do is put in the journaling, but I didn't think I'd put you guys through that. But you'll see in the photo at the end the journaling that I did. And I'm really happy with how these pages came out. They look sort of similar and sort of different. So yeah, I'm really happy with them. Thank you so much for all the support you've been giving me for my process videos. Thanks for watching.